In this video, I'll demonstrate how to connect a float switch to a 220-volt automatic control box. Warning: make sure to turn off or disconnect the power source before connecting a float switch or water level probes to the automatic control box. Inside the packaging box of the controller, you will find 3 level probes and a small gland to match the knockout on the bottom of the control box. In this video, we will be connecting a standard float switch, so we will only use the gland. We can put the level probes back into the box. Let's begin by removing the lid from the control box. Be careful when removing the knockout that you do not damage the circuit board or components inside the control box. Let's go ahead and remove the knockout from the bottom of the control box. Now we can fasten the gland into place. Next, we will feed the float switch cable through the gland and into the control box. Make sure that about 60 millimeters of the outer insulation is removed from the float switch wire. Our float switches have 3 wires: a black common wire, a brown normally open wire, and a blue normally closed wire. When using the float switch to turn off the pump when the tank is full, we will use a black common wire and a brown normally open wire. We can cut off the blue wire to use as a bridge and then insulate the end of the blue wire if needed. On the circuit board, just to the right of the motor terminal connector block, there is a float switch or level probe connector block with 3 connections marked 1, 2, and 3. I'll clean the insulation from the ends of the float switch wires, ready for connection. Let's begin by inserting the black common wire into the float switch terminal connector at the position marked 1 and fasten the screw. Let's take the piece of blue wire that we cut as a bridge and remove the insulation from both ends. Now we can go ahead and insert one end of the blue wire into the terminal connector mark 2 and fasten the screw. Let's take the other end of the blue wire and insert it into the terminal connector at the position mark 3. Finally, we can take the brown normally open wire and also insert it into the terminal connector at the position mark 3 together with the blue wire. Now we can fasten the screw at position 3. We are connecting this float switch to turn off the pump as soon as the tank is full of water, and then automatically turn on the pump again when the water in the tank drops enough to cause the float switch to hang. We need to set both of the dip switches at the bottom right of the control box circuit board to the off position. Both switches will be switched to the down position if not already there. Now I will go ahead and put the lid of the control box back into place. We can now plug in control box. It is very important to note that if the control box is in manual mode, it will ignore the float switch and only switch the pump on and off when the run or stop buttons are pushed. We can see that this control box is currently in manual mode. It can be switched to auto mode by pressing the orange mode button once. The auto indicator will be displayed at the bottom right of the control box screen. In auto mode, the control box will switch according to the position of the float switch. If the float switch is floating in the up position, the pump will be switched off. When the water level in the tank begins to drop and the float switch hangs in the down position, the pump will be switched on. When the tank is full again and the float switch is floating up, the pump will be turned off. Connection to the float switch is now complete. The working of the float switch can also be reversed to switch the pump on when a reservoir reaches a high enough level to cause the float switch to float in the up position, and then turn the pump off when the reservoir drains enough water to cause the float switch to hang in the down position. To make this change, we will begin by unplugging the control box. Next, we can remove the control box lid. Now we can simply switch dip switch 2 to the up or on position. Let's screw on the control box lid. Now we can plug in the control box. In auto mode, the control box will switch according to the position of the float switch. If the float switch is hanging in the down position, the pump will be switched off. When the water level in the reservoir rises so that the float switch floats to the up position, the pump will be started. If the water drops so that the float switch hangs in the down position again, the pump will be switched off. The connection of the float switch is now complete for pumping out of a reservoir